when I left central office, I said I did not write a speech. I'm just going to wing it, because that's what you've spent the entire year doing, the last year. You're always on. You have to come up with it at the spur of the moment. You don't have time to prepare for everything that could go wrong, like today. So we wing it. That's what we do. When we introduce our special guest, which some of you may have your guesses of who it is, many of you are wrong. For some, it's disappointing. See? And we just roll right through, right? Just keep going. Good. Participation from the crowd. That's always good. I appreciate that. Makes it less awkward. Okay, also, when we introduce who is here to speak to you today, it will make more sense as to why they're running late. And I'm sure that you will extend your grace and kindness, because it's a pretty big deal that this was their next stop on their way to practice. So much so that I got a text that said, is there any way we could start early, because I'm coming straight from you to practice? I was honored, but don't think that I didn't just go ahead and say, no, sorry. You can't skip us. You've still got to stop here. We'll get you out as quickly as we can. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. It's wonderful to see you back in person. I see you in your buildings individually and in your groups there, but this is the first time we've all been together again in quite some time. And we've had a lot of ups and downs through a pandemic and everything else, and I can't be more appreciative to be surrounded by this group of people. So give all of yourselves a hand for being here today and the work you do. And just a quick background about how we got this person here. When I had the first meeting with the central office staff, we had a lot of conversations about how we wanted to move forward. And I found myself, you don't have to admit that you do this, but I found myself looking at all the things we couldn't do. All the roadblocks, all the obstacles. And it just hit me one day. I thought, why can't we? We can do anything anybody else can do. Monroe County is the best place to be. I believe that, or I wouldn't be here, and I know you do too. So it was at that moment when we were talking about having some sort of theme, and we talked about athletics. I said, gosh, wouldn't it be really cool if we could get so-and-so? And they're like, yeah. I said, but that won't happen. So a couple of days passed. I just couldn't get it off my mind. So I got on the website, like I do, did all the things that people don't normally do. I went straight to the coach, emailed him individually, and I put in there, it's probably about as likely as getting struck by lightning that you'll be able to come. I don't even know if you're allowed to do this, but I'm going to ask anyway. I said, I'm doing what we tell our kids to do every day. You don't know if you don't ask. If you don't aim high, then you're not going to get the highest that you can achieve. So that's what we did. Didn't hear anything for a month, so that worked well. And I decided one more time, I sent a follow-up and I said, just in case it got down in your email box, I wanted to make sure you saw my letter. And I heard back. And it was from him. It was like 2 lines. That's how I knew it was from him. If it was PR, it would have been a paragraph. So anyway, that's why we've postponed between COVID numbers being on the rise and his busy schedule, which included recruiting around the country and outside the country. We finally have him here today. So without further ado, I'm going to ask that they bring in our special guest who just came this morning from the World Series in Atlanta. Coach Tony V.
Thanks for having me.
Walk around, do whatever you want.
Okay, sounds good. How are y'all doing? It's good to be here. Everybody can hear me okay? I don't know why. This is close enough. I don't know why y'all are standing. I was bad luck. I went to the Braves game last night, and it was a blast, but I thought after the blast in the first inning, it was going to be a World Series celebration, and might be a little tougher to make it here this morning, but nonetheless, it was a good game to be at. I got free tickets from a VFL, and shows you one more instance of loyalty in Tennessee, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So by no means am I a professional speaker or anything, so I'd love to open up to questions at the end or just have a conversation with you all. Glad to be here. Christy, we can do a few pictures. We do have practice today. We'll be doing pictures later. People that are double vaxxed only will be able to take pictures. You want to come down and do this? Well, come on down and let's take a picture. All right. Well, you seem like you got a good group. Our kind of deal when we took the job at Tennessee, it was 4 years ago. We'll be coming up on our 5th season. I think the biggest challenge was kind of more mental than it was physical, and one thing was being comfortable in your own skin, and you guys seem to have an energetic group overall, and that's something that's not easy to do, and part of that is just making people feel comfortable in the environment that they're in, and realizing that at the end of the day, wherever you're at working, everyone's got goals, but we want our guys to enjoy their experience at Tennessee. I mean, that's a big-time deal for a kid that grew up in the state of Tennessee to wear orange, but it's also that case for somebody from another state, whether it be Texas or whatever it might be, and Texas is not as good of a state as Tennessee, so we've had to pull some people out of there and bring them up. But we want people to enjoy the environment that we're in, and whether we win a bunch of games or we can win a national championship like we want to do or get back to Omaha, at the end of the year, I think most of our guys now will say that they're enjoying their experience with us. So that started with some dark days when we first got there. Not that anyone had done wrong in the last staff. I mean, the baseball resume the old coach has compared to mine is much, much better. And we did inherit some good players, but and just trying to give you a little history of everything, when we first got the job, the coaches had a lot of complaints about what the players were doing, and then of course we'd be remiss if we didn't kind of interview the players we inherited and say, hey, what's been going on? What do you like? What would you change? What needs to get done? And there was a lot of complaints the players had about the coaches, but the thing we picked up on was neither side had communicated any of these things. So immediately for us, a big thing, became communication. And part of being comfortable in your own skin is being able to come up to somebody and say what you got going on. And for guys that are supposed to be, masculine and superstar athletes and all this and be tough, that's hard to convince guys to do, to be vulnerable and come to people with things. But we've discovered some crazy things, especially in COVID times with our guys about what they're thinking and feeling. And having that open line of communication has also helped us kind of illustrate to the guys, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is how we do business. If we go play a game in Memphis like we did this past Saturday, we're going to play ball, but it's also kind of a thank you to the fans. You need to make yourself accessible. This is how you behave, whatever. And I really feel like those communication lines have helped us build what everybody's calling our culture. And I'm happy to answer any questions about our culture. But that's a big thing. So just figured some insight into the program would help with that. That communication, to me, has led to a great deal of trust. And these guys are, battling LSU or at South Carolina in a hostile environment. I don't know what's in the water over there in Columbia, but those people are mean. So it's a tough place to play. If we go to our guys with something, they have to be able to trust what we're saying, and that's not just going to happen because our pitching coach has a great resume or whatever it might be with any of our staff members. Kids these days don't care. They want to fact check you. So if you say, hey, you need to throw strikes, they're probably going to Google, why should I throw strikes or whatever. That's kind of a silly example. but they kind of want to know why, and they want to know more, not just like it was when I was growing up. It was do this, or else, Dad might take his belt off and do whatever he's got to do with it. Those days are, I think, out the window, and it's a little bit more, there's a little more tact, or things are a little more delicate. So it's important to have that communication going back and forth so our guys trust what we're coming to them with. And I'd like to think even our guys that haven't played great for us, or they weren't the starting shortstop or whatever it might be, I think because that trust is there, I think they've all enjoyed. That's a great jersey, by the way. Yeah. You're not supposed to be walking around, though, when the speaker's talking. I'm kidding. So anyhow, I think those are kind of the building blocks of some things we were able to do. And, of course, there's a lot that goes into recruiting and all of that. But I'm happy with where the program's at. We're kind of in an interesting spot. Like, everybody clapped, which was nice when I walked in, but what if we only win like 35 games this year, which is 15 less than last year? So we're in a new spot. But when we first started out, it was very small, simple things that we had to do. I've got a guy that's a really good kind of mental game guy, or really just for athletes, but also people. He's really good at kind of mindset stuff. He costs like $15,000 to bring him in and just visit with our guys, and he wanted to do it year one. I was like, no offense, but I don't know that we want to spend $15,000 on this group. We weren't very good. And also, but that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but kind of honest. But also, we kind of had to go to first grade before we could worry about second grade. And now we're in a different spot where, yeah, we had some success, but we're nowhere near where we want to be. And once you get to a point where you have success, sustaining it is the bigger challenge. I think to this point, the ride has been really fun, but now things become a little more stressful because the standards have been raised. And that's kind of the last formal thing I'll say to y'all as far as standards go. That Mississippi football game was wild, huh? Hey, I'm from St. Louis, and I'm a city boy, and I've shot guns once, and, I get made fun of by some people on our team and things like that. I'm not very useful other than maybe recruiting and throwing batting practice and things like that. But I have gotten acclimated to all parts of Tennessee, and obviously I love it. And I know this about Tennessee fans. All those referees had to do, and I'll say this, I guess you are filming it, so if it ends up on Twitter or whatever, that's fine. Hey, if you have people in a stadium for 4.5, 5 hours and they're passionate about something, they're going to get emotional. And I know this about Tennessee people and fans. All they had to do was say, the next thing that hits this field, it's 15-yard penalty on Tennessee, the Vols. There ain't anything going on the field. Unless a Mississippi fan, which that town sucks, by the way. So small. Hotty toddy. I don't take that out of the video, but hotty toddy. I throw this. We got to go down there and play, and they're really good, and they've got a great coach, so we'll see how we can do. But, yeah, unless a Mississippi fan would have thrown something, there wasn't anything going on the field. So what we kind of illustrated to our guys, because, again, these kids, you constantly got to beat your point into their head. You say it once, and you think they got it, but you've got to say it 7, 8 times so that voice is rattling around in their head, and now they start saying it to each other. And the one thing I just kind of wanted to illustrate with what our standards are is whatever we let them get away with, that's what they're going to do. So if there's no repercussions for throwing a water bottle and you're a rambunctious college student, or maybe you've had some adult beverages, whether you're 21 or not, you might just go ahead and throw the thing. Again, me growing up, there was a lot of stuff I do. I still have foul language, but when my mom would wash my mouth out with soap, or my dad would find out and it'd be worse, I wouldn't cuss for a while. But about 2 weeks later, it'd come up. So, but I guess my point with that fun or disheartening example, because we didn't win that game, is I really feel like it's a great point. If you let someone do something, they're going to do it. So you better make sure what they're doing are the things that you want, and you got to hold, especially we have to hold our guys accountable all the time for what they're doing. And kids these days, they're not used to being, kind of corrected or pointed out. Everybody jokes nowadays, everyone gets a trophy. Kids just aren't used to that. So I think when we're coaching our guys, we got to kind of back it up with a why, and we consistently have to hold them accountable. Otherwise, they're going to do the things, again, the behaviors that we're not looking for as opposed to the ones that we are. So just my thoughts. I hope that's appropriate. No one fell asleep. It doesn't go well for you in our program if you fall asleep during our meetings. We have short ones, but we've had a few interesting ejections.